Hi, this is Andrea Kane, and I am here to talk to you about HIT 330. I want to go over the Chapter 2 quiz that you had a couple of weeks ago for a couple of different reasons. Number one, I want to make sure that you understand the questions and the answers and why the ones that you struggled with, perhaps that you struggled with, and how to make sure that you know those for the future. And then the second reason is I will cover whether or not this is a question that I will be giving credit back to, that maybe it wasn't covered very well in your book, and so therefore you definitely need points credited back to you, and that process will be happening here shortly. So let's start with this, Chapter 2. I'm looking at the questions where 5 or more people got them wrong, because that really tells me of a trend where someone was struggling. So I'm going to be talking about questions 16, 17, 19, 35, 37, 39, 40, 43, 44, 47, and 49. All right, let's get started with question number 16. Which of the following is not a type of doctor? Not. So you're looking for something that does not have doctor in it. So the first thing you want to do is look through all the answers. What is the easiest one to pick off? Well, the first one is PA. There's no D in it for doctor. And PAs are physician assistants. They are not doctors. They don't have the same training as a doctor. They work under the supervision of a doctor, whereas all of these others are doctorate degrees in and of themselves. So this one should have been fairly easy. Make sure that you know that nurse practitioners and PAs, physician assistants, those two, NPs and any version of an NP as well as a PA, they are not doctors. So that's where this one should have gone. So I'm not going to give points back to it, but I wanted to explain why you should know this and hopefully how it will help you. All right, so the next one is 17, telehealth. Telehealth includes all of the following except. Okay, so this is a tough one. It really is, but it should have been gone over in your book. Artificial intelligence is not telehealth. Artificial intelligence is used for a variety of things. Video conferencing, telehealth. Mobile health, telehealth. Remote patient monitoring, telehealth. Synchronous video conferencing or asynchronous, either one. Video conferencing is telehealth. That's where you have a patient in a room, such as in the ED, and you're utilizing video conferencing to bring in a physician from somewhere else to consult with a patient. So whether it's asynchronous or synchronous, if it's video conferencing, you need to know that that is telehealth. Mobile health means anything that you would have on a cell phone. And as you know, you can talk. You can FaceTime or you can Zoom or utilize any of those. So that would be an example of mobile health. You can share data, you can do face-to-face consultations, you can talk, again, via telephone. So that's why that one would be. Remote patient monitoring you might not be aware of, but that's where virtual ICUs come into play, virtual intensive care units. And that's where they remotely monitor the patient. They have an area set up, usually at a major medical center, where you have a number of physicians, usually intensivists and other doctors that are trained to look after intensive care unit patients, and they look at the information that's coming in that they monitor. And so that's how I would have gotten to artificial intelligence. But I think if we go back to your book, and I'm going to flip back here to talk about telehealth in Chapter 2. Okay, telehealth. Technologies, and this is the bottom of page 45 on Chapter 2. Technologies include video conferencing, the internet, store and forward imaging, streaming media, and terrestrial and wireless communication. If you flip the page, types of telehealth applications, they include the synchronous video conferencing, the asynchronous video conferencing, remote patient monitoring, and mobile health. So this question I'm not going to give you credit for because it was in the book, pages 45, 46, bottom of 45, top of 46. And this is another one where you want to kind of use your test-taking skills to knock off the ones that you know can't be true and get to the one that absolutely has to be untrue. All right, so let's take a look now at question number 19. Which of the following is not a medical specialty? This is a tough one. I will agree, it is a tough one. There are physicians who specialize in addiction medicine. That's where you get your substance abuse treatments. You have occupational medicine. Those are treating people with work-related injuries or doing work-related drug testing and physical screening. Pain medicine, obviously, is just what it sounds like. There are usually anesthesiologists who specialize in pain medicine and use their background for that. There is sleep medicine. Doctors who work on that. A lot of times those are neurologists that work on sleep medicine. Then you have sports medicine, and those who are usually orthopedic, a specialty that focus on that. And I'm trying to see really quick where you might have gotten these so that you would have known. Give me just a second here to flip through your book. Okay, so in chapter 2, starting on page 23 and going all the way through page 26, there are lots and lots of medical specialties. And I can see where you might have thought immunology is the same as immunization, but immunology is not. But I will give you that that one probably was a little bit of a conflict, so I will go ahead and credit those of you who got number 19 wrong. I will credit it, just because immunization medicine is a little bit too close to immunology. All right, so let's look at number 35. All right, Healthy People 2020. All right, that was in chapter 2 as well. And Healthy People 2020 started on the bottom of page 48. And then it went into all of page 49. And if you look, if you read through on page 49, it talked about how examples of social determinants include availability of resources to meet daily needs, access to educational, economic, and job opportunities, availability of community-based resources, exposure to crime, violence, and social disorder, social economic conditions, language and literacy, access to mass media and emerging technologies, as well as culture. And the figure 2.7 shows economic stability, education, social and community context, health and healthcare, neighborhood, and built environment. And if you'd read down below that the bullet points on page 49, you see that it talked about the framework reflecting the 5 determinants, and it goes down to talk about all of those and go into some detail. Personal responsibility is not one that they mention. So this is one of those where you had to know those to really get this one. So I'm not going to credit it back, unfortunately. All right, 37. Cell-based technology includes all of the following. Cell-based technology. That was on... Cell-based technology started at the top of page 51 in your book. And it talks about how the study of cell-based technologies is controversial. They include the following: tissue engineering, using biomaterials to develop new tissue and even whole organs with or without transplanting cells, human embryonic stem cells, adult stem cells used for transplantation and regenerative medicine, gene therapy, or cell transplantation. The one thing you're not hearing here is the actual organ transplant. You hear about adult stem cell research, embryonic stem cell research, cell transplantation, gene therapy, and tissue engineering. It does not mention organ transplantation. It does mention developing new tissues or even new organs, but it doesn't say transplanting whole organs. That is not a cell-based technology. That's just organ transplantation. So again, this was one that you really needed to know the content in the book, and then rule out all of the ones that were in the book. So it was a difficult one, I will give you that, but the information really was in the book. So 39, role of the CDC. It includes all of the following. So let's find at the bottom of page 51 where it talks about the CDC. And at the top of page 52, it goes into what the CDC does. And again, this is one where you needed to know what the CDC does so you would figure out what they don't do. There's nothing in here about the CDC doing vaccine testing and approval. It says here that the CDC leads a nation in the following services: detecting and responding to diseases and conditions, promoting healthy living, providing information for travelers' health, educating for emergency preparedness, but there's nothing in there about vaccine testing and approval. So that's why that one is there. So the information really was taken from your book. It was there. So I'm not going to credit that one. Number 40, PCOR. PCOR. This was a tough one, but this was on page 52 as well. Patient-Centered Outcomes Research Institute, PCOR. Patient-Centered Outcomes Research. So that was right there on page 52. So again, it was in your book, but unfortunately I'm not going to credit that one because it really was there. And I realize that some of these are really close and hard to choose from, but that's why it's important for you to know. You will hear PCOR used as you go further into your studies, and it's important that you know what it means. All right, so number 43. Which of the following laws require the gradual implementation of a prospective payment system for Medicare inpatient hospitalization? And the answer was TEFRA. And about the only way you're going to know this is to really study what these laws are. And I grant you that can be very boring and it can be something that you're not going to really enjoy. But going into this field, these acts, these laws, are really important to us, and it's good for us to know what they do and why they do it. So, where does the information come from on TEFRA? Let's see here. All right, the laws start really on page 54. So if you're looking at your textbook, it starts on page 54 and it goes all the way through and it tells you what each of these acts do. I know we're just touching on these because we will go into great detail and depth with these as we get closer into the future. For instance, on week 10, you will be focusing on HIPAA. And there'll be a little bit of ARRA and high tech in there that we cover as well. But I really need you to know what these laws are and somewhat what they do. So I guess I'm torn. I know they're not interesting, but you really do need to know what they are and what they do. And like I said, TEFRA is at the top of page 56, and it's really to control the rising cost of providing services to Medicare beneficiaries, and TEFRA required the gradual implementation of a prospective payment system for Medicare reimbursement. So, good question on this one. It is in your book. I'll tell you what, if you got it wrong, I really need you to know it. So I'm not going to credit for that one, I'm sorry, but I really need you to know these. So that was number 43. Let's look at number 44. And again, this is these laws that were there at the end. And this was HIPAA. And if we look here on page 56, it addresses issues related to the portability of health insurance after leaving employment, establishment of national standards for electronic healthcare transactions. And that's exactly what it is. All right, so the next one that everyone struggled with was 44. Oh, we just did 43 and 44. Sorry about that. 47. Which of the following laws includes privacy and security standards for protected health information? Again, if you look at the HIPAA one, it says a portion of HIPAA addressed the security and privacy of health information by establishing privacy standards to protect health information and security standards for electronic healthcare information. So again, it was knowing those laws. 49. Home health care services usually include all of the following. So let's flip back in chapter 2 and take a look at home health care and see what it is. All right, so what page was that on? Home health care services started on page 42 and went in a little bit onto 43, but it was mostly on page 42. And it talked about home health is limited to part-time or intermittent skilled nursing care and home health aid services, physical therapy, occupational therapy, speech-language therapy, medical social services, durable medical equipment, supplies, and other services. There's nothing mentioned there about alternative medicine. And this would be a hard one because you'd have to know all of these things. So on this one, I'm going to go ahead and credit it to you. So the two I'm going to credit back are number 19 and number 49. And just really wanted to cover those with you. I'll also be making videos on chapter 3 and chapter 4 because I think that information is so important to cover. Sorry for being so difficult and picky. It isn't that I want everyone to get A's, but I want you to learn the information because you will need it. Not just in this class, but as you go forward. So it's just really important that you get this information now, as much of it as you can. Understand that if it's not perfect, that's okay. We will cover it again, but it's foundational. For instance, going back, talking about HIPAA, we're going to be spending quite a bit of time on that here in week 10. And so what you learned about HIPAA briefly in chapter 2, we're going to expand on, and it'll help you to know going into week 10, what is it meant, what was HIPAA, what was it meant to do? So that's really the reasons why. All right, I hope you're doing well. I'll talk to you again soon. Take care, and thanks for being patient with me, and thanks for the feedback. I really do appreciate it. And where I can, I definitely will credit you back. All right, take care.